fourth best team, McLaren. And the fourth from George Russell means that he is now only 5 points behind Carlos Sainz in the Drivers' Championship. Of course, he DNF'd. This damage control season is just looking better and better for Mercedes. And if there are any more DNFs for the Ferraris, as we saw on Sunday, then Mercedes are always in the position to scoop up the points left on the table. And let's not forget that they're now only 66 points behind Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. With how insane the season has been so far, who knows what might happen in the closing stages. The final spot in the top 5 was taken by Esteban Ocon, who secured his best finish of the season, equalling Alpine's best finish of the season of Alonso's 5th place only a few weeks ago in Britain. He pitted initially on lap 17, overtaking Zhou Guanyu on lap 23 at turn 4, doing the same on Yuki Tsunoda a lap later. He pitted for the second time on lap 46 and strolled home to collect P5, which, combined with a P10 from the back of the field for Alonso, moved Alpine 30 points ahead of Alfa Romeo in 5th in the Constructors' Championship, as well as seeing Ocon move ahead of Bottas in the Drivers. Behind the French driver were the pair of the Haas drivers, split by McLaren's Lando Norris. Norris pitted on lap 15 after being jumped by his teammate Ricciardo at the start of the race, Magnussen doing the same a lap later, and Schumacher pitting on lap 17 after an initial skirmish with Lewis Hamilton, which he came out on top in. A slow stop from the German meant that he came out behind both McLarens and was swiftly dispatched by Daniel Ricciardo. A battle between Zhou, Alonso and Magnussen on lap 23 meant that Norris and Schumacher were able to catch up with the trio on the next lap, resulting in a very dramatic 5-way melee for P8, Magnussen coming out on top at the expense of Zhou Guanyu, who lost 3 places in 1 lap. The Chinese driver, who ended up in 14th, pitting for the first time at the end of lap 24, as well as the yet-to-pit at this point Alonso, losing out to Mick Schumacher. Mick used this momentum to pass Norris on lap 27 and K-Mag on lap 34 at turn 9. Both Kevin and Norris made it a 2-stop race on lap 43 and 44 respectively, Norris using this pit stop as an opportunity to serve his 5-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. Stroll tried to make the 1-stop work, having pitted on lap 30, but fell foul of both Haas drivers as the race came to a close, ending up in 13th. Norris fell out of the points due to a long pit stop, but overtakes on Yuki Tsunoda on lap 47 and Daniel Ricciardo on lap 63 meant that the British driver ended up in P7. Still, his worst ever finish in Austria. Conversely, this is the Haas team's best performance since the 2018 Austrian Grand Prix, where they achieved a 4-5. Daniel Ricciardo flew completely under the radar to take only his 3rd points finish of the season in 9th, having pitted on lap 13 and again on lap 46. Valtteri Bottas pitted very early, only on lap 7, having started from the pit lane, and was battling for the points in the closing stages, a great improvement, being denied, though, for the 3rd time in 4 races by the ever-incredible Fernando Alonso. Alex Albon was also fighting for the final points position in the closing stages, but ended up in 12th. This, the 6th race weekend in a row without a score on the board for him and Williams. And Stroll followed in P13. The 2 AlphaTauris both had a poor weekend. Pierre Gasly having a torrid time of it, being handed a 5-second time penalty for exceeding track limits on lap 33, then making his 2nd major mistake of the weekend and spinning off Sebastian Vettel, who was the final finisher, taking another 5-second time penalty for his offence. He still managed to stay ahead of teammate Tsunoda though. And alongside Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz in the DNF column was Nicholas Latifi, the only driver other than Nico Hülkenberg yet to score a point this season, breaking his 8-race finishing streak. Now for my driver of the day, and it has to be Lewis Hamilton. The Brit just cannot be stopped as of late, with 3 podium finishes in a row. All the way up until Canada, George Russell had been far and away the better driver this season, with highly consistent performances. But as of late, the tide has begun to turn around on the young Brit, as Lewis is in the form of his life at the moment, having come back from a poor P10 in qualifying this weekend to make it onto the podium once more, while George Russell had his second bad qualifying in 2 races. George is definitely still in the mix, but it is clear now that he needs to make more of an effort to stay on top at that team. Next for my team of the race, and it is Haas, who are on cloud 9 at the moment. This is their second double points finish in a row, a feat unseen since 2018. And both drivers look very comfortable in the car as well, which clearly has great pace on the straights, as can be attested by Lewis Hamilton, who complained about the team's straight line speed while trying to make an overtake work mid-race. It looks as if the only way is up for the Haas team at the moment, as they have slipped into P7 in the championship, and they may be rekindling some of the spark that they found at the start of the season. Finally, for my struggle of the race, and once again, it is Pierre Gasly. The French driver, as I have already spoken about, had an absolute mare. He took 2 penalties thanks to some sloppy driving, and almost finished behind his teammate. The fact is, Pierre just really needs to find some consistency. He has had a depressing season. He looked on for another stellar season, with 2 points finishes in the first 3 Grand Prix, but his form has slipped away completely since then, and he needs to find something more if he wants to make anything out of this season. Thank you for listening to F1 every week. We have reached the halfway stage of the season, so thank you to everyone who has been listening so far. Congratulations to Charles Leclerc on his 5th race victory in the sport, and tune in next week for some more F1 news.